Alright, thank you guys for coming back for another video. As you guys can tell from the title, I got a new watch. We're going to try a little bit different unboxing view this time. Try something a little bit different than normal, rather than me going POV with a camera on my head. But as you guys can tell from the title, that I broke down and got a Seiko Sumo. Not a lot of you guys know I do enjoy watches. I'm not a hardcore watch enthusiast. I am not, I don't go crazy for watches, but I do enjoy watches. I enjoy, numerous nice things. Nice cars, nice watches, nice sneakers, things like this. So there's a lot of little random stuff that I'm into. If you guys have seen my video on the Tree Hut watch that my wife got me the other year for Christmas, that might have been the last watch that I bought. At least that I can remember. I sold off more watches than I have bought lately, if that gives you any idea. But I was looking for Seiko Marine Masters, the Marine Master 300s, and you just cannot find those for a decent price anymore. I kicked myself in the ass for not buying one of those back when they were made, and now I'm suffering for it. So I was looking for those, and unfortunately, the prices on those things are $2,200 to $3,000 plus at times, and I refuse to pay that for a watch. Again, I do enjoy nice watches, but to me, I'd rather spend a little bit more and get a Rolex. So if I could find one for the right price, well under $2,000. If I could find one for $1,500, something like that, maybe I'd consider buying one, because that does seem to be a hell of a watch for the money. But this one I kind of fell upon by accident. I was never overly into the Sumo. I've never seen one in person. It looked appealing, but I didn't know if I wanted it. And I do have, this is a beater watch. This is my Invicta Grand Diver. This is the only Invicta that I have left. I had a few reserve pieces, and I just got sick of them and sold them. They were just too big. So this watch I beat the shit out of. I've had this thing for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. I just thought it was just time for a little bit nicer black face diver watch that's somewhat comparable to this, and you'll see, I'll show these side by side to show their similarities and differences. This is not a bad watch. I think my wife got me this for $100, something like that, back from QVC many years ago. And this is just the only Invicta I have left that I haven't sold. It is a quality watch. I do like the watch, but it's seen better days, and I am drinking the Seiko Kool-Aid right now, so I'm going to try out the Sumo. So instead of going with the SBDC001, like everybody else may have gotten, I paid a little bit more to get the original Seiko Sumo SBDC001. This thing out of the box here. I have not looked at it yet. I have not seen one of these in person, so I have absolutely no idea what to expect with this. So again, I did pay a little bit more for this. Okay, here's the top. I did pay a little bit more for this just because I can't really stand the Prospex logo on the, I think it's 033 is a new model of this. So yeah, I always want to spend a little bit more for a cleaner logo and the automatic written out in nice cursive. Okay, so we're going to get to the unboxing now. Another reason I paid a little bit more for this is because the gentleman that I bought this from did state that he bought it new and basically had 2 links taken out of it, and he never wore it. So again, I was willing to pay a little bit more money for that, considering. But you can see the numbers here, SBDC001, and it's a Prospex black dial, and the part numbers, etc. Alright, so the moment of truth. Again, I've never seen one of these before, so I'm hoping I like it. The size should be pretty comparable to my Grand Diver, but we will see. So we got some general Seiko stuff. Got how to use a watch. We all know how to use a watch, so I'm not all that concerned with that. And we got a warranty card, which weird enough does not have any of the serial number information on it, so that's a little weird. But we will, guess I'll check that out a little bit closer. That's a little strange that that does not have that. Alright, so we will get this open and see. And you see it comes in a nice black cushion. This comes on. My other Seikos didn't come with quite a nice cushion for what I remember. I think they were white cushions. Maybe they went with something different on the JDM models. Get this unsnapped and look at it. Weight feels about the same as my Grand Diver. I'm not going to go over specs of this watch. Anybody who's ever seen any videos on this watch, everybody goes over specs. They're beaten to death. So I'm not going to go through that. I just want to show the watch side by side with a comparable watch and you know, get my immediate reaction, because again, I've never seen one of these. So feeling it offhand, the weight feels about the same as my Grand Diver. It is pretty top heavy. The bracelet feels quite a bit lighter, and it is quite a bit thinner than my Grand Diver. So I don't know if you guys can pick that up there. There's a pretty considerable width difference on the bracelets. Height difference, the Grand Diver is going to be, you know, just looking at it, it is quite a bit higher because of the back case. If you guys can see my cat Karma there, who wants to get inside the boxes. Back of the casing is quite a bit taller. Crown, or the bezel, is a bit taller on this. Overall size, again, the Grand Diver is actually quite a bit bigger. This thing isn't huge, but it does wear quite a bit bigger than my other Seiko watches. I have an original Gen 1 Orange Monster. I have my SKX that you can see here. I have another Citizen watch, a couple little things here and there. But this is the bigger of the watches right now. Overall, side by side, I'm trying to not to look into the camera, look at these actual side by side. I guess you would call them the indices on the watch are nice and clean. They are polished metal rings, just like the Invicta. The loom, I can guarantee, is going to be a ton better. This Invicta, nothing looms except for the hands and maybe the pearl in the 12 o'clock position. Other than that, nothing looms on that Invicta whatsoever. The cutting of the case is pretty nice on this. Again, the Invicta is pretty nice, the way they cut this and the angles and doing the matte and the polish, but the polish does get scratched easy. So the curvature of the actual case looks like it is pretty nice. Got a nice polished look, and again, it is comparable to the Invicta, having the brushed on the top of it. One thing that did look nice from the pictures is you can see that there's a little recess for the individual dots going around the bezel. They look more pronounced on people's pictures on the internet, but it's not quite as pronounced in person. It is a pretty cool thing. It has a nice Seiko S on the crown. I thought that's a nice little option here. It does not have the crown guards like the SKX is not as pronounced crown guards as like on my Monster. Monster can get a little uncomfortable. You can see the crown guards on the Invicta. So this has no crown guards. I don't know how that's going to wear yet. One thing that's a little bit weird, I probably would have thought, is that the lugs, I would have thought that the end link on the bracelet would have fit flush with the lugs. They do not. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick that up there, but there is quite of a bit of an inset there. Whereas you can look at the significantly cheaper Invicta Grand Diver, and the lugs and the end links are completely flush. So these are not flush. The clasp on the bracelet is typical kind of cheap Seiko. All my Seikos are like that. Whereas you look at the Invicta, again, it's kind of tough sometimes to justify the money difference, but you know, again, on a $100 watch, the clasp is a little bit nicer on the Invicta. But again, I'm used to that with the Seiko. I kind of the thinner bracelets or the less heavy bracelets don't bother me as much. I love the Jubilee bracelet on the SKX. My Monster, I don't find it as comfortable as the SKX, so I do wear the SKX more. We'll see how this one wears out. Again, initially this just looks really thin. That may bother me a little bit, so I may go with something that's a little bit more of a robust bracelet. But right there is the reason why I spent that money. That nice automatic scuba logo, if you guys can see that. Instead of having the Prospex and the X, or just the X, I forget what it looks like. I never really paid attention to them. Again, I did pay a little bit more money for that just to have that nice, clean, automatic verbiage on the face. To me, that's just cleaner. We can see still have the plastic on the back. Some of it may have got ripped up from the clasp, I don't know. Otherwise, again, I'm going to try and look at the actual watch instead of looking at the camera. Otherwise, this thing looks, you know, exactly like the guy said, mint. Like it was never worn. So, shut the clasp, make sure there's no desk diver marks on it. And no, I mean this thing's pretty mint. The click action feels nice. Has a nice audible click. Not a ton of end play. A little bit of play back and forth. But you know, I don't scuba dive anymore. I'm not using this as a tool. This is just to kind of look nice for the office. And now I'm going to show you my OCD. There's a lot of you guys are probably like this, and this needs to line up perfectly, or it will drive me crazy. Jesus Christ, I can't even do it. Let's say I have 3 times the charm. Alright, well there's a little bit of a playback, so we'll leave it there. I can tell you the loom is going to be 1,000,000,000 times better on this thing than the Invicta. Now one thing that does drive me nuts about this Invicta, again, I'm not a scuba diver, so I'm not using it as such, or at least I don't dive anymore. This would definitely not be my diving piece. The way they do the scallops on this thing does have a nice clicking action, and there's no play in this thing like at all compared to the Seikos. It does have a great action, but these scallops are like make it almost impossible to be able to turn. So if you are using this as a tool, you know, it would kill it in loom, and this bezel is a little tight and just it's really tough with these scallops. So that's where this thing loses out. Otherwise, everything looks good. I don't know if this is going to fit my wrist. I think he said he took 2 links out of it. Usually I get about 2 links out, so we'll see if this fits. I do like that the clasp has these like my orange Monster does, rather than the clasp setup on the SKX. Alright, time will tell if it actually fits. Alright, it is tight. Yeah, I'll have to put a link back in it. That's way too tight for me. So it's going to be kind of hard to judge how this thing is going to wear. But again, the bracelet does look thin. Doesn't look huge on the wrist. I forget how big my wrists are, 7.5 inches or something like that. I always thought I had skinny wrists, but apparently they're not so skinny. That is, yeah, really tight. So I'm going to have to get some links put back in that. Let's see if we can get a close-up of the bracelet next to the Jubilee. And if you can believe it, the Jubilee is actually a bit wider. Let's see if we can get these side by side. So the Jubilee is actually a bit wider, which is funny because the overall size of the Sumo is quite a bit bigger than the SKX. So we get a height difference. And even the end links on the SKX compared to this are a completely different, tighter design. You can see them side by side there. I don't know if maybe that's just the design that Seiko did with the end links. So maybe that was a thing. They wanted to have kind of some sharp edges in there, where they went from the polish to the matte, back to the polish inlays there. But let's see what else we have here. He should have included some links. Hopefully he did. Alright, so we got 3 extra links in here. And we got the Seiko prospects. Let me say these things were $675. I did not pay that. I'm not going to say I got it for dirt cheap, but I certainly didn't pay $675. So we're going to see if I can do a follow-up review once I get a link or so put back in it. It actually looks like the clasp is on the outermost adjustment, so it's just going to be just too tight. Oh, one thing I forgot is it does have the adjustment, the micro adjustment, like you think I know how to do this now, like my Orange Monster does. So actually, I can get a little bit of, I can rock this a little bit. So I always fiddle around with these. I don't ever really use this, but there's your micro adjustment there. And we'll see if that gives me enough to be able to get this thing on my wrist comfortably, where obviously it's going to be too loose now. So I'm not overly a fan of this micro adjustment option. I wish it did have the micro adjustments like the Marine Master did, but I don't know. I don't know why you would ever need that much adjustment. I guess if your wrist expands or contracts a little bit in the summertime and wintertime, but it's just an awkward setup. The way it opens up is awkward. The way you see the open link like that is awkward, and just who needs that much more adjustment? If you can see, you know, that went from, you know, super tight to adding that much in there. So that's a little peculiar that they went with that on these, but again, that's just nitpicking here. Overall, though, it does feel like a nice watch. I got to get some wear time with it. This bracelet just feels really light. It's just different from what I'm used to. But we'll go ahead and I guess we'll set the time here. Crown is a little tight, and the winding option feels good. It's got a nice audible winding option, unlike the other Seikos I have. So we'll set the date. Today is the 1st. Nice tight movement. Feels a lot different than my SKX now that I think about it. Alright, so I'll set this for 447 or so. I'll give it a couple winds. Man, that wind feels great compared to the SKX. Or actually, the SKX doesn't wind now that I think about it. But compared to my other watches, yeah, that crown does feel a little bit tight. But compared to the winding feel on the Invicta, actually the Invicta is the only automatic watch that I have that has the, I guess that one's an NH35A movement, where all my other automatic watches are NH35 movements, so they do not have an actual winding to them. They're not hackable. You just set them and go. The only problem I have with these guards sometimes, where this might actually work out better, is sometimes it's tough to push in the crown enough to actually twist that fully in. Those guards get in the way sometimes. This one sometimes can be a problem. My Monster is, I can't remember if that's more or less difficult. I don't wear that a ton. You know, comparing the click the bezel with this SKX. This is a nice feel to it too. This just feels a little bit tighter. Instead of having the completely open bezel, you can see that the bezel is inset a little bit into the body of the watch more. So again, I'm going to see if I can get a link or two thrown in that. I'm going to wear it for a little bit, and if you guys are interested, I'll do a follow-up video and let you guys know how I like it compared to the Invicta. Again, the Invicta is tried and true. You know, a lot of guys say it's a shit watch. This is a shit watch, but I beat the hell out of it, and it holds up. So this doesn't bother me. I just needed something a little bit nicer. And you know, I like to rock the Seiko stuff. But we'll follow up if you guys have any comments, or you know, you guys have probably seen a ton of videos of these Seiko Sumos, so there's probably nothing all that exciting, but to me it's exciting. I've waited almost 3 weeks for this watch to come in. I've never seen one in person, I've never worn one obviously, so you know, to me it's something new and different. But if you guys like the video, feel free to thumb up it. If you're interested in the other stuff I have, again, that's nothing crazy. I'm not an uber watch collector where I have all this wild stuff and know a ton about the movements, but you know, if you guys are interested, I'll make another video. So catch you guys on the next one, and enjoy.